When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of a storm, there's a golden sky and the sweet silver song of the lark.
Hello everyone, welcome to You'll Never Walk Alone World. We are really happy to be, back on the live show. Today we have an amazing show. It's really a great show today. So I'm going to have a little bit of tequila, courtesy of our friends from Tequila Pancho Datos. Really the best tequila in Mexico that it's sold in the UK through Master of Malt. So if you log in Master of Malt, you will find Pancho Datos. But today we have a great show because we have a very special guest. He's a true legend of Liverpool Football Club. I mean, he's been part of the club since 1971. He has been part of, winning 6 Champions League, 3 Europa Leagues, 12 Premier Leagues, 6 FA Cups, 8 League Cups, and a World Cup. The World Cup clubs. He's the voice of Andfield, George Sephton, and he's here live with us. So let's welcome George. Hello, George.
Good evening. Hi. Hola.
How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Yes, sadly,
George,
it's the best I can do.
That's great. That's good. I mean, it's really early here in Mexico, but in this show, we always say, well, it's 7 p.m. in Liverpool, so we can have a little bit of tequila.
That's true. That's very true.
Yes. George, we're really happy. I mean, you are really a true Liverpool and football legend. We were talking earlier, you and I, we were talking about how, football, obviously, the ball and what happens on the pitch is one of the most important things, but it is much more than that, especially in a club like Liverpool. And you are already part of the history of this club. But tell us how it all started, because I know even before you became the voice of Liverpool, you were already kind of part of Anfield. How did your relationship with Liverpool started?
When I was a child, my dad was a footballer. He actually had a trial at Liverpool in 1923, 98 years ago. That's a bit worrying. But he didn't make it as a player, but he stood on the Kop for years and years and years until he was too old and frail to go and stand there. And by that time, I started going to watch Liverpool the same time as Bill Shankly started being the manager of Liverpool. And obviously, I did my time on the Kop. And then 11 years later, I actually started working for the club in 1971, which was just amazing. And here we are all these years later, and I'm still there. It's amazing. Every time I think about it, I think I'm dreaming, but I'm not.
Well, and I mean, you were part of the Cup in that era, that it's also legendary. Yeah. I mean, it's the beginning of the Liverpool that we know right now. But then in 71, you became part of Anfield, of the club. Right now, I mean, Liverpool fans that go to Anfield, they cannot understand Liverpool without your voice. So tell us, how did that happen back in 71? How did you became the part of the voice of Andfield?
Well, the guy who was there just before me wasn't very good. So I'll put it like that. One night I was standing in the crowd with my wife, and this guy made a mistake, and I said to my wife, "Oh, this guy is awful," and she said, "It's all well and good. You're standing down here, and you're not up there, but I bet you couldn't do any better." And I thought, well, actually, I probably could. And I went home and I wrote to the chief executive, Peter Robinson, and I said, "Look, the guy you've got isn't very good. Why don't you give me a try? I know what needs doing. I bet I can do it better than he does." And the next thing I know, I got a letter from Liverpool, come and see me, and they decided to give me a trial. And all these years later, I'm still there. I think actually I'm still on trial, but I think I can say I've made it by now.
Well, it's a long trial.
Going across the screen.
Yes,
Sorry.
yes. And talking about those pictures, we saw the first pictures. I mean, they were in black and white, and we saw I mean, all the equipment there was totally different. So how have you been having to adapt from back then with all that equipment to now the digital era? So how has that been for you?
It's been, obviously it's changed over 50 years. So you take each change as it comes. You move from little 7-inch vinyl records to 12-inch vinyl records. Then that equipment you can see on the picture there, it had a jack plug. And in 1993, I started to take a little tiny CD player in with me with a lead that went into the speaker system, and I played CDs from that. Then they gave me a proper CD player, and then they moved me over to the corner of the cop where I am now, my own little room, the one you can see in the picture right now. And it's got everything. It's got CD decks. It takes digital downloads and everything. And the other screens you can see at the far side, they belong to the VAR system. So it's of records in with me, because I don't think I carry all those records now.
Yes, things have changed a lot. I mean, well, I'm in Mexico right now. You're in Liverpool, and we can do this live show. So we've come a long way. Yeah. But well, then you wrote the letter. They let you try it, and I don't know if I'm right, but I think I'm pretty sure your first game was the same day of the debut of Kevin Keegan. Is that right?
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
Nobody had ever heard of this young guy. We paid £35,000 for him. That wouldn't buy a drink for the team now at £35,000. But Bill Shankly liked the look of him, and the first day of the season, he said, "Okay, Kevin, you're in the team." And we'd never seen him before, but we all watched him. We were so impressed because he ran so hard for the team. He covered so much ground. And obviously, it wasn't long before he was a big hero. And what was it, 7 years later, he went off to Hamburg. And then he went to another couple of clubs, but he's still revered in Liverpool. I saw him last year, hadn't seen him for a while. And we were talking about the old days, and he looked at me and he said, "Hang on, you're still here?" And I said, "Yes, Kevin, I'm still here. But I think you did much better out of the thing than I did. I think you made a bit more money than I have." But he's a lovely fellow. He's a really, really nice man. And that's, that's always nice to see. Some of these, some of the big superstars you meet, they're not nice people. But Kevin is a lovely man, and everybody thought the world of him, and still do. People still idolize Kevin Keegan.
What a great player. And I mean, as Kevin said, I mean, you still here. Yes, you've seen so many managers, players, even owners come and go. You're still there. But that first game, that first chance they gave you, tell us about it. I mean, what do you remember about the first time you sat there and you saw Anfield from there and you were able to use that mic?
I was terrified. I got up to the old TV gantry high up in the main stand, and I looked down at all these people, 50,000 people underneath me, and I just stood there for a minute, and I looked down and I said, what am I doing here? This is crazy. But then I thought, right, we have to get on with this. Took a deep breath and turned on the mic, and away we went. It was fine after that. Once you've actually taken the first step, you get used to it. I knew what the previous guy used to do, knew what music to play. I had things to say, and gave me a team sheet to read. And obviously the first day, Kevin Keegan's debut, we won 3-1 against Nottingham Forest. So that was good too. It would have been a bit of a downer if we'd lost that day, but everything just fell into place. It was one of the great days of my life, obviously, and over the years, there's been a few great days in that place, but that was certainly one of them. It was just so amazing to go through the front door at Anfield. Because obviously before that, I used to have to queue up and pay for a ticket to get in, and all of a sudden, I'm inside Anfield. I'm working for Liverpool Football Club, and it was a really wonderful moment.
Yeah, that must be amazing. I mean, as you were saying, and even nowadays, you cannot just go there and buy a ticket like it used to be before.
No.
Going to Anfield is not an easy game, an easy thing. And now that Liverpool is a world phenomenon, I mean, fans like myself all over the world, we dream of watching a game there in Anfield. And you have the privilege to have one of the best seats and be there all the time. And you've seen everything. I mean, 12 Premier Leagues, 6 Champions Leagues. I know it's impossible to say, tell us about the best moment. I mean, it would be impossible. But what are some of the best moments that you can remember right now?
Well, people ask me that a lot nowadays, and I always say, obviously, the night we beat Saint Etienne in the European Cup in 1977 was great. Fantastic atmosphere, fantastic result. The way it went, we were losing, and then we got through. 2005. The Champions League semi-final against Chelsea. Because we hadn't been in the Champions League final for so many years, it was just so good to get through, especially against Chelsea, who they were winning everything at the time. And that was such an eventful night because obviously we won 1-0. Chelsea disputed the goal. They didn't think it should have been a goal. Then we get to the end of the game. We're winning. We're hanging on. And then the fourth official holds up a board that says there'll be 6 minutes of added time. And everybody just stopped and thought, what? 6 minutes? Where did he get 6 minutes from? But we got through, and obviously he went off to Istanbul and won the Champions League. But the best moment ever was Barcelona a couple of years ago, the year we won the Champions League. I mean, that was a crazy night. You know, when we were 3-0 down against Barcelona. They were supposed to be the best team in the world. Two of our star players were hurt, so we didn't have the
Yes.
full team out, and then everything just fell into place. It was amazing just to watch it. It was just like a dream. Then of course we're level, and then Trent Alexander-Arnold takes that amazing corner kick, and Divock Origi scores the winner. And to this day, I still have dreams about that corner kick. And I, at the time when the ball went in the net, I was waiting for the referee to say, "No, you have to take it again. You were too quick," but he didn't. And then we're looking down, and he's given the goal, and we're winning. And then there was a while till the end of the game, and we thought, please God, we're going to hang on and win this, because obviously if Barcelona had only scored one goal, they would have been through, but they didn't.
Yes.
And the time went on, and then eventually it was in my corner. All of a sudden the referee blew his whistle and we're through. And that was crazy, because I put on "You Never Walk Alone" on the PA system. Very, very rarely do I put "You Never Walk Alone" on at the end of a game. But that night I did, and the whole squad, you've seen the pictures, the whole squad
Yes.
lined up in front of the Kop and joined in. And I was just sat there looking down and watching this, and I was thinking, this is the most wonderful moment of my life. I just didn't think in a million years we'd get through, but we did. And then "You Never Walk Alone" finishes, the team go away, and I'm thinking, well, the crowd will go home now, but nobody moved. Then I looked around, I'd run out of music. I had no music left on my little memory stick. So I had a CD there, John Lennon, bang it on, "Imagine" by John Lennon, and the whole crowd started singing along, and people were in tears. I spoke to somebody yesterday whose father has just died, and he said that night he rang his father and he held his telephone up just so he could hear the crowd singing "Imagine" live. And then the next day I started getting messages from all over the world. I know my favorite was from somebody who lives in Australia. He said he was in the casino in Sydney, and it was early in the morning, and the place was full of all these big, strong Australian farmers. You know the sort of person I mean, big, rough men, and they were all crying. And then on national TV over here, there's a guy called Piers Morgan who does the breakfast show. He's well known in America. I don't, you've probably heard of him.
We all know him here in Mexico.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Piers Morgan called me a genius on the TV for putting that on, and that was it. I said to my wife, "Take me outside and shoot me, because life will not get any better than this." And of course, it did. A couple of weeks later, we won the Champions League, so it did. So, but you just can't replace moments like that. It'll live with me for the rest of my life, and I know a lot of people still talk about it.
It was an amazing night. I mean, I was singing from Mexico in my screen when you played "You'll Never Walk Alone." It was unbelievable, and you talked actually about two interesting nights, obviously amazing nights. You talked about, well, the semifinal, but then you mentioned Istanbul. That night, I became a Liverpool fan, like many people in the world. But also that night in Barcelona, it's kind of why we have this show right now, because that night was unbelievable. I was coming back from California from a work trip, and it was 3-0 down. Obviously, I was going to watch the game. I had hope, but I mean, I was doing some work stuff. I didn't even have the volume on. My wife asked, "Why is the volume off?" I'm like, "Oh, 'cause I have to work, and really, I don't know if we can pull this one out." And then it was the first goal, so I turned the volume on. The second, when that corner kick what happened to me was the same. For a few seconds, I was waiting for the referee to say, "No, you have to take it again." Then it didn't. I just started running and screaming. Next thing I know, I'm shirtless in the screen singing "You'll Never Walk Alone." It was a crazy night. Unbelievable, unbelievable. And my wife and my daughter were just looking at me like if I was crazy. And yeah, that night I just became crazy. It was amazing. And I mean, you have obviously, I mean, many moments and memories and stories about Anfield that to talk about them in one show would be impossible. We would be here for days. But now you're also having a book published. It's coming out. It's called The Voice of Anfield.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your book.
Well, somebody rang me up a couple of years ago and took me to introduce me to his literary agent. And he introduced me to a publisher down in London, and they said, "Look, you've been working for Liverpool nearly 50 years. That's half a century. You must have some stories to tell." And I thought, "Oh, yes, I do, actually." So I sat down, I made a few notes, and I went through my old diaries and went right through Google and Wikipedia and found some matches and put it all together in my head, then started to put it on my computer. And obviously, the good thing about lockdown last year was that I was sat here. I was stuck in front of this computer, couldn't go out. So I got it all done and down, and then we edited the thing. And looking back over the years, it's amazing. It's amazing how many little incidents there've been. It's amazing how much I had to leave out, which has made me sad, because it was just too big. There's just too many little stories. You know, from the things that have happened to me following Liverpool around Europe and at Anfield, obviously. And as you said before, the number of managers I've been through. Obviously, I've come full circle. I started off as a fan with Bill Shankly. Bill Shankly was in charge for the first 3 years that I worked at Anfield. And incidentally, I flew to Paris in 1981 with Bill Shankly for the European Cup final. That was an amazing experience. He moved on. Bob Paisley took over, won lots and lots and lots of trophies, and we've come right through. Kenny is still my hero. He's been the manager twice. He's still the best player I've ever seen. All the way through, we had a bad time, and then Jurgen Klopp turns up, and his arrival was amazing, because I always tell the same story. When the night he was at his first game at Anfield, I was standing in the reception after the game, waiting for all the car park to be empty, and Jurgen went past me, and I said to somebody, "I must say hello." And I followed him up the stairs. And, "Excuse me, my name's George. I'm the..." And that was as far as it went. And he turned around and he looked at me. He said, "Ah, yes, you are the famous voice of Anfield." And I was struck dumb. I just looked at him. I thought, this can't be happening. But he was so good. He stopped. We had a talk. He shook me very warmly by the hand, and he said he was pleased to meet me. And he went off to do his press conference, and I was standing there. It's not very often I can't say a word, but that time I was just standing there, shaking my head, thinking, what just happened? How did Jurgen know who I was? But everybody says the same thing about him at the club. He's so keen to get on with everybody. At the training ground, as soon as he arrived, he knew the names of the players, the young players, the training staff, the people who cooked lunch, the security guards, the office cat. everything. He knew everybody, and he's so
Yes.
friendly. And he just can't hear anybody at Anfield who's got a bad word to say about Jurgen. And so here we are. He's been here, 4.5 years now, and we've got the Champions League trophy in just last year before last. We're the current league champions in England, something we've been wanting for years. For another 2 weeks, we are still champions of the world, because this year's final hasn't happened yet.
Yes.
And we're into the group stages of the Champions League. And we're still in the top pieces of the English league. So it's Wonderland. It's so good, and people still moan. We've had a bad run last couple of weeks. It's been awful, but we're still there. We're still fighting, and we need to win a couple of particular games, and we'll be back where we belong, right at the top. This can't go on. We've had our bad run. I'm really, really hopeful it's going to turn around. Especially these next few days. We played Tottenham and West Ham.
Yeah.
We play West Ham on Sunday, and they are above us in the English league at the moment, which hasn't happened in my lifetime, I don't think. So we'll have to sort them out on Sunday.
Yes, there's no room for mistakes anymore, but I'm sure it will turn down. And I mean, it's football. You cannot win all the time like that. And we still have a great club. And what you were talking about, Jurgen Klopp, it's amazing. I mean, I have my story with Jurgen. I'm a Liverpool fan since 2005, but before he came to Liverpool, I was a Jurgen Klopp fan, because I was in Germany when he was in Dortmund. So I went to watch a game. It was Europa League, Dortmund against Sevilla. I liked the way that the team played and everything. And then I got there really early. I was the first person in the stadium. I always like to be early because I love everything about football. I love the atmosphere, watching the crowds get in. So I'm always early. I was really early. I was the only one in the stadium. So I went down the nearest I could to the field, and the players were coming out just to check the field. They were still wearing tracksuits and everything. So I was waving at everyone. Some of them would look at me and wave. Some others would just walk. And then Jurgen came. And I started screaming, Jurgen, Jurgen, Jurgen. He looked back. I'm like, oh, nice. He's going to wave. No, he walked straight to where I was. He looked me in the eye and he said, hi to me. How are you? I'm like, fine. And well, enjoy the game. And he went back. And I mean, that's the way that guy is. I mean, I was just a fan there, like millions that were going to be.
Loves him. I don't know if you know, he lives in a place called Formby, which is north of Liverpool, out in the suburbs. It's a nice part of the world. But he's famous around there. He walks his dog sometimes on a weekend when Liverpool aren't playing. He'll walk his dog, and there are lots of small football pitches in Formby. My son used to play football there years ago. Phil Neal's son used to live there, and the Everton manager's son, and a few other people like that. And so there's a lot of junior football, young people, and more than quite often, people will be watching their children play football, and there'll be a guy in a baseball cap walking his dog around the field, and he'd stop and he'd be watching the football and taking notice. And then suddenly he'll turn around and, oh my God, it's Jurgen Klopp. And he'll come over, he'd take pictures of people, and he'll give advice, and he'll say that the centre forward's very good, and he's just so friendly to everybody, and he's a joy to have. I'll be so sad, when he decides to go home or wherever he's going. We keep hearing stories. His contract runs out in 3 years.
We still have to enjoy him.
We have to make the most of him. who knows? He could be here another 20 for all I know.
Yeah.
But I'm sure he'll want to go home at some stage. But at the moment, it's just a joy to have him here. Because I know I got interviewed last year by a crew from German television, and they were talking about Jurgen, and I said, Jurgen is the only manager we've had in all my time that comes close to Bill Shankly. And it's never happened before. And I said to my wife later, I was a bit upset with myself because I hadn't mentioned Kenny Dalglish. And I thought about it, and then I realized that Kenny Dalglish was a terrific manager twice, but Kenny Dalglish was also the best player. And Kenny Dalglish was also the man who was here at the time of Hillsborough. And he was so good to the families, to the people. And Kenny Dalglish, he's not just a footballer, he's not just a manager. He's Kenny Dalglish. He is a man on his own. He's a wonderful guy. And into that, I'm very pleased because Kenny has written the foreword to my book. And when he agreed to do that, I said to my wife, that's as good as it gets. It really is. It's he's a man. There's not many people I idolized in my life. Bill Shankly, probably. Paul McCartney, yes, and Kenny Dalglish is the third, and that's that's great because obviously I've been lucky to meet all my idols. That's something that means a lot to me in my life.
Wow, that's great. I mean, and when you were talking about Jurgen knowing who you are, and you were surprised. I mean, I don't know why you were surprised. You are a Liverpool legend and a football legend. Earlier, we were also talking before the show, you and I, that about that. I mean, how football, it's more. I mean, much more than what happens on the field, and the players and the managers. Obviously, they are the stars, but football's much more than that, and especially with Liverpool. And I was telling you the example here in Mexico. We have Melquiades. He was the voice of the Azteca Stadium. He was iconic. Yeah. You cannot understand Mexican football without his voice. So the same happens with you in Anfield. That's why you have a book. That's why even King Kenny wrote something for your book. Then, so I mean, lots of Liverpool fans, we are waiting for that book. I mean, I'm sure it's going to be amazing. Where are we going to be able to find it or buy it?
Yes, it's already on Amazon, and I've been having meetings the last couple of weeks by Zoom. Once we got past Christmas last year, I said, right, we've got to organize this because I know people in Mexico want it. A lot of people in Australia and Scandinavia want it. So I've said to the publishers that I want to make sure it's easy for everybody. And the other thing is, I hope it'll be going on Liverpool Club's own website. You'll be able to get it that way. But believe me, I will make sure it's available all over the civilized world, basically. It's got to be, because, as you say, Liverpool has so many followers worldwide. It's a big, big family now. Just before lockdown last year, I was at a dinner with Peter Moore, the chief executive, who's now obviously left us. And he said that Liverpool Football Club has 1 billion followers over the world now. That's 1/6 of the population of the world. And, that's an awful lot of people to get at. And I know I was amazed, but he's quite certain on that figure. And the night we won the league last year, when we had the trophy presented to us, I was inside Anfield, obviously, and there were 300 people inside Anfield that night. And I said, I am so privileged to be here. I'll never forget this as long as I live, because there were millions and millions of people like yourself. You would have killed to be there, wouldn't you? That night when we got the trophy.
I had my tickets, my plane tickets. I mean, I didn't have tickets to go to Anfield, but I was like, okay, that day we're gonna have the title for sure. So I bought tickets. I have to be there in Liverpool, and well, this pandemic happened.
Yeah, there's a lot of people worldwide in the same boat. I must show you this. This was sitting on my desk. This was my share of the
wow.
Liverpool winning the league. My wife said to me, when you die, which of our children is going to get that? And I said, they'll have to fight. I won't be worrying. But that means the world to me. That really does. It's something amazing to have.
I bet.
And,
I bet.
I must show you, before I forget again, there's a few things. Hang on, I'm back to front on the camera here. There we are. That red, the poster on the wall. It's impossible to see without getting it off the wall and getting right up to the camera. But that's a chart of all the managers and all the players that play for Liverpool in the last 50 years, and around the edge of the poster, there's all the managers all lined up around the touchline, and just on the very edge of the poster is the word Sephton. And
wow,
if you have no idea how good that felt to see my name in with all those people. And of course, on the other side, where are we? There we are. That is the Hillsborough record, well, the one we made 2013. It got to be #1 in the English charts at Christmas 2013. And in the sleeve notes on that one, a list of all the people who played on it, the farm, and a lot of top musicians, and Paul McCartney, and then underneath Paul McCartney, there's me. And
wow!
I didn't even know my name was going on there. It's crazy. It's one of those things. If you told me was going to happen when I started working for the club, I would have said you were loopy. I would have, it just doesn't bear thinking about. It's so weird, it's so surreal, and it's so heartwarming. You just can't describe it in words. Certainly not in English.
Wow, that's amazing, unbelievable. And of course, I mean, your name is in so many moments. It's written already in so many moments. I mean, good moments, happy moments, sad moments. You were part of. You saw people crying when Hillsborough happened. Your name is there in 12 Premier League titles, 6 Champions Leagues, European Cups. I mean, talking about Premier League, you've been part of 12 of them, 12 Premier Leagues. But I bet in 11 of them, you were part of the celebration. You saw people there hugging, chanting, cheering. And this last one, I mean, with an empty stadium, with people having to be locked down. How did you live that last title, which was also so important because it was 30 years without it?
It was more important than any of them because, we thought 2 years ago, I probably thought we'd never win the league again in my lifetime. And because we were so close to Manchester City and we didn't win it, I thought we can't do any better than that. But obviously we did. But that's the night we won it. As I say, I stayed around in Anfield after the presentation was all over because I just wanted to take in every moment. But there was no party, no big celebrations there. There were sort of 6 people up in my little corner of the stand. There was a lot of TV guys around, but they weren't near me. And then I came out and the place was dark and it was quiet, and I got in the car and went home. And everybody says that I think we'll probably have a big party at some stage, maybe later in 2021, but I just don't know. I hope so. Maybe we'll win something else this year. We'll have a double party and a parade around the city. You probably saw the news footage of the parade when we won the Champions League. I mean, the whole city was there. Everybody. It was a wonderful, wonderful day, and if anybody who's there will just never forget it.
Yes. I mean, I wanted to be part of that parade. Couldn't have it, but I'm sure there's going to be one, and I have to be there. I'll see you there for the next parade. Yeah. But right now,
you'll be the one in the red scarf, I know.
Yes. I'll have the Mexican flag, and I'll bring you some tequila panchadatos so we can celebrate there.
Oh yeah.
And George, I mean, but during this lockdown, I mean, you've been really busy. You've been writing the book, but also you've been doing some podcasts. Now you're with Mark Kenny and the people from Cop Connect doing Cop Radio.
Yeah.
Tell us about all these podcasts and things you're doing online.
Well, yeah, it's been great because obviously the guys from Cop Connect I've known for a long time, so they asked me what I do with them, and then over last year, when we were about to win the trophy, a lot of people suddenly realised that I was the only guy who was at Liverpool 30 years ago when we won it. So all of a sudden, I've got the TV people chasing me, and I know one night my friend of mine who lives couple of miles up the road here, he said he turned the television off because he said every channel he went on to, I was there talking about Liverpool. And I started to get messages from people. I've just seen you on the TV, and they're literally all over the world. And then that went on, and then people saw me. I thought, well, I wouldn't mind talking to him until they talked to me. And then I start telling people about the book, and they get on to me and, can we have a talk? Yeah. And it just sort of grown and grown. And then sadly, just after Christmas, when Jerry Marsden died, which was such an awful shock, people suddenly realized that I'd been around since he started out in the early 60s, and they phoned me up, will you say a word? And I was all over the world. I think I did 13 interviews in 2 days. Wow. Mostly sitting here. Well, I think all of them I was sitting here because, again, at the moment it's lockdown. We're not allowed to go out unless it's, if you go to the doctor or if you go into work, you're allowed out of the house. But obviously talking to TV people wasn't like that, or the radio. But that was interesting because I got to, I also got to talk to a couple of people in the media who I'd always looked up to. I'd never actually spoken to before, so that was fascinating. It's something I'd like to do a lot more of when I finished in Anfield. If I'm not locked away in a happy home by then.
Well, I mean, it's always great to hear you. I've been listening to Cup Radio. We're good friends with everyone in Cup Connect. I'm sure they're watching, so hello to all of them: Alex Malone, Danny Greenwood, Rob Glover, and Mark Kenny, who is such a talented Liverpool artist.
He is.
So hello to them. And it's always great to hear you there with them and Cup Radio. So everybody listening, go to Cup Connect, the Facebook group, and the webpage, cupconnect.com. There's lots of Liverpool things going on there for fans. Great group and great guys there in Cup Connect.
They are.
But well, George, we're gonna be posting and everything about your book. Of course, we want to get your book. We're really happy to have you on the
I
show.
hope so.
And well, I'm looking forward to reading the book and meeting you when this is all over and I go to Liverpool. And hopefully we'll also
I'll
have
look
you
forward to
again
that.
here. We'll have you here again in the show. Thanks a lot for being here, George.
My pleasure.
Thanks a lot. And
I've
well,
enjoyed
thanks.
it. Really nice to talk to you.
Yeah, it's been amazing. It's been fun. It's been interesting, and it's been a pleasure to talk to a legend, a Liverpool and a football legend like yourself. And thank you to all the people watching. Thank you to the people from Pancho Datos, Tequila Pancho Datos, which is the best tequila in Mexico that it's sold on the UK. You can go to Master of Malts and you can get Tequila Pancho Datos in Europe. And also thanks to our friends from Keepa Gloves who send us, look, George, at this goalkeeper gloves that they send us. We're going to send Alison some of this. we will make sure now Alison wears Keepa. These one are based on a Mexican legend, but I'm sure we can make some with them, some Alison Becker edition.
They're wonderful.
So hello also to Keepa Gloves. And thanks George. Thank you to Kimba in the production, to all the people watching. And remember, when you support Liverpool, you will never walk alone. See you next time.
When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high and